Hi there. Most likely this year, you'll have spoken to family, friends, and colleagues remotely via the internet. That is how we've been able to make this podcast. Therefore, it's very likely that you've experienced those amazing audio special effects like compression, lag, and my personal favourite, sounding like a robot. So don't you worry, we've worked very hard and managed to achieve those exact same special effects on this podcast at times, so that we remain on brand with most people's 2020. I hope you enjoy the show.
This is the Lockdown Hotline Sessions with your host, Danielle Lonnon.
Sorry, please answer that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lockdown Hotline Sessions with me, your host, Danielle Lonnon. This is the podcast where we put identical questions to all of our guests, but they mix it up, spice it up, and entertain us with their unique take on COVID and lockdown in 2020. Today's guest is Thomas Hamilton. Thomas is a self-described pop culture theatre nerd, social justice fan, and arts festival junkie. His love of the theatre and the arts in general was born from originally growing up in London, but also the thriving community theatre scenes in Newcastle, where, as well as spending most of his teenage years on and off the stage, he also attended the audition-based Hunter School of Performing Arts. During this time, he was one of the 2012 recipients of the City of Newcastle Drama Association Youth Grants. In addition to completing his Bachelor of Communication, he's also taken short courses in radio and TV presenting and screenwriting at AFTRS and was a member of the 2019 cohort of ATYP's National Studio, an annual week-long playwriting residency. Through both volunteering and professional opportunities, he has spent the last 6 years on and off being involved with various festivals. Highlights include being a social media and office volunteer for Queer Screen for the Mardi Gras Film Festival, being the producer for the Queer Writers Program for the 2018 edition of the National Young Writers Festival, and also being the creatability intern for Sydney Festival for the 2019 program, where he was able to speak about his experience at Arts Activated. He is now there full-time as the administration officer. He also has a million ideas for his own creative work, which are currently either in his head or barely started Word documents. Thomas Hamilton, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for dialing in. How are you?
I'm good, Danielle. Thanks for inviting me for this project.
Not a problem. I'm so excited to have you here. Now, as you know, we ask identical questions to all of our guests. This is your beginner's call. Are you ready to go?
Okay. Fire away.
Excellent. So, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself that perhaps wasn't covered in the introduction?
So, as with my bio, I originally grew up in the UK, and then when I was 9, my family moved back to Australia. So I've lived both sides of the equator, and I have dual citizenship, although I haven't left the country since coming here. So
Right.
The 2 passports haven't really
Gone
been
anywhere.
used that much.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's passport has been used very much in the last 11 months.
Yeah, and I think being here has been a little bit more safer than being in the UK, as harsh as that sounds.
No, I think those of us currently in Australia are very, very grateful. Okay, so question number 2 is, what is your current location and what is the state of lockdown there?
So I'm currently living in Sydney, Australia, where I'm been working full time. So originally, when the first big wave of lockdowns happened, when everyone's offices closed, I went back home to Newcastle as I was looking to get out of a really crap share house situation anyway. So thank God for the pandemic. Then it was just very much working back at home until my office was ready to reopen towards the end of June, start of July. Been primarily living in Sydney since July. But in terms of the lockdown state, I think because of a lot of the factors such as geography and the fact that the way everything's set up in Australia that allow the state government to start acting before, in spite of or before the federal government put in place certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Compared to other parts of the world where they're at the mercy of one government.
Yep.
Like Sydney, I think we're very much ingrained in certain parts of post-COVID in the sense of everyone now accepts that in order to even just sneak into the toilet at your local pub on the way home, you have to sign in.
Yep.
Even just to do that, which is annoying. Although I think Sydney and other parts of Australia, because we've eased back on the low restrictions, it is very much that give and take thing where it is very tempting to go complacent and pretend that everything's over and done now, but it hasn't.
I've seen a lot of complacency about in Sydney, and it's like, no, guys, there's still a pandemic out there. You still need to remember that. It's just because it's not in our face doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, like I won't pretend that I've been 100% in following all the things that we're supposed to do, but there are some people out there who are reckless.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to move on to question number 3. I think you may have just answered it for me, but I'll ask you nevertheless. Are you still in the same location as pre-COVID, as in early March this year? And are you still doing the same thing? And when I mean the same thing, are you still kind of being employed in the same place?
I'm in the same city, but in a different suburb and different share house at the moment. And I think with that share house I'm living in, it's 3rd time's the charm, which is really lucky. And speaking of luck, which I'm trying not to take for granted, is that I've been able to stay working for the organization that I've been employed with, because towards the end of last year there was an opening within one of the full-time roles, and
oh wow, fantastic.
And they offered it to me out of the blue. I was really lucky that because of the industry that I'm in, which is the arts, so many people basically, if you aren't in a full-time role, your contract and you jump around from one project to another. And basically a lot of my friends who weren't in full-time roles, they had already jumped to the next project, but COVID hits and then the project is not happening, or because the project ended up becoming digital or something like that. They only needed their core staff or...
Oh, I see. Right, yep.
And also my job is a more admin-based role, so it had a little more security attached to it than...
something like an artistic role, like an actor or a lighting designer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, wow, aren't you fortunate? You picked up a lovely job and it's kept you employed in the arts during COVID times.
I know.
Well,
I know.
well done, you, Thomas. You're a very, very lucky minority. So, congratulations.
I know how frustrating Centrelink and any other government-based social welfare system can be.
Absolutely.
So my empathy to anyone who's had to step into either a Centrelink office or even more depressing job service providers, because I know they're not fun, and it's sad that a lot of people have had to either go back to dealing with that bureaucracy or have learned what that bureaucracy is actually like.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our international listeners, Centrelink is the Australian government unemployment and benefits. So, like any government bureaucracy, it's a little bit of hard work at the best of times. Okay, so I'm going to move on to question number 4. I think this is one of my favourite questions because it could be very serious or it could be a fun question, depending on how you want to answer it. But since COVID-19 started and the restrictions started, what do you miss doing that you can't do right now?
Easy. The thing that has been a big hole in my year has been going to the library, because I really love reading and going into a library, browsing through their sections and seeing if there's anything that catches my eye, and also reserving books and then having a whole bunch of books to look forward to waiting for. So, yeah, to give context, over the past 3 years, this is only the items in my checkout history. This isn't how many books I've actually read, and some of them aren't even books. Like a few of them are DVDs. But from March 2017 up until the start of this year, I have borrowed 264 items.
Wow. I think I know the answer from what you've just said, but what skill do you feel that you have improved at during this lockdown time?
I don't really think I've there hasn't been anything that I've been actively trying to improve or work on. I did go through, while I was still at home, I did go through a stage where I would try out a few recipes, and I managed to make a curry basically from scratch. And obviously the spices were the store-bought powdered stuff that comes in the tube that everyone has on their spice rack. So it's not like I was peeling ginger and grinding up turmeric or anything like that. But
a little bit of shop help.
Yeah, it was still making the paste and making the sauce and things like that, which was kind of cool. And do like the idea of cooking, and I'm not too bad in the kitchen, but it's I would say I'm an enthusiastic trier, but I wouldn't say that I've improved on that. But it's fun when you try things and it works out.
Yeah. I was actually going to quote the Beatles song, "It's getting better all the time." A little bit of creative cooking and you go, yep, I like that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to do that next time. So basically you are dress rehearsing your cooking skills until you get it right for opening night.
If you want to put it that way.
Okay, so you've improved the cooking skills, and I might have to ask you, for a meal one day. But on the flip side, what have you discovered that you are absolutely rubbish at?
Oh my God. So basically, I think with lockdown, for me, it very much kicked in a lot of my bad habits. So
I see.
I'm very much a stay up till late sort of person, and I will stay in my pajamas until I have to leave the house, sort of. Like a lot of my more dysfunctional habits really got accelerated, and also just because I haven't been reading as much, I think I've sort of become slightly less articulate over this year, because when your world essentially becomes a bubble, you're only talking to the same few people. And also for me, it's just very much kicked in the instinct to just stay in my bedroom. Is like not necessarily a safe place, but like that just staying there is easier than leaving, if that makes sense.
That I understand. And I think during lockdown, a lot of people will have that exact same sentiment. So we can't blame you for that one because I've been there and I'm sure many other people have. Okay, so what have you been grateful for during lockdown?
As I said earlier, I've been grateful that my financial and living situations have been safe in that I've been able to access a lot of support both at work and also in my family life, because there are lots of people who, whether they live too far away or because of bad personal relationships, wouldn't have had the opportunity to go back home or have people at work who are happy for you to stay at home like 2 hours away while the office is closed. And they were very much making sure that I had a place sorted before the office reopened, which was really considerate of them, considering how many offices and companies out there would be like, no, the moment you leave this 5K radius, we're finishing your contract early or things like that.
Well, that sounds very, very generous of your employees to make sure that you had a place. So that's really, really lovely to hear.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. It might be a little bit embarrassing for you, but I think it's going to be very entertaining for us. So, are you ready for this question?
If it's a question I'm thinking of, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so what is something that you don't want the rest of the world to know that you may have geeked out at during lockdown, such as binge watching a whole series or, playing computer games or maybe eating a whole pack of Tim Tams in under 3 minutes? Just saying.
For me, I have probably like the trashiest taste in pop music. So I've to describe my taste, it's early 2000s UK school disco. So
is that kind of like Girls Aloud and Bewitched and Steps and all those kind of bands?
Yeah, so it's very much because I was still quite young. The only songs you knew were like the 2 or 3 big songs, or whatever songs of those types of bands that you did a routine at a dance concert. It's very much going back to actually listening to their more deeper cuts or the more, not necessarily obscure stuff, but the stuff that isn't on like the compilation songs to play at the parties sort of thing.
I lived in the UK at that time. That would have been like the Now 43 or the Now 44, which was like the top 40 hits of that moment.
Pop music, like the stuff that I really like, even if it's not like from 1997 to sort of thing.
Okay. God, that takes me back.
So basically, the fact that I am a diehard Britney Spears fan.
No. That's
no.
amazing. That's amazing.
I am enough of a Britney Spears fan that I find the videos on YouTube where she's singing live.
You know what? I think that's geeky. I love it. That is fantastic. Oh my.
And I've also did some really niche sort of things. So it wasn't made when I was a kid, but studying Narnia books on Witch and Wardrobe because it was before the more recent Disney ones that came out during the 2000s.
Okay.
BBC had done a mini series of it in the late 80s, and they managed to do 4 of the books.
Right.
So I've actually watched I've been rewatching bits and pieces the BBC Chronicles of Narnia, and it's because
yes.
So it's the late 80s, early 90s. So BBC children's television on late 80s, early 90s budget and special effects.
Oh, I used to watch all of this stuff when I was a kid. This is what I grew up watching. So I am a big fan. I'm going to have to go back and check that out now on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm also really into musicals, and the cast recording that I keep going back to, and I think very much up a lot of the feelings that have been happening over the past year to the whole cultural and political discussions that we've been having, not only because of COVID, but because of climate change, politics, and so many other things, is Hades Town.
Right.
This show written by Anais Mitchell, who's a folk musician, the songs Flowers, that has very much summed up the negative things I've been feeling over COVID, where it's very much just lay me down and everything wash over you sort of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. Okay, I'm going to go and check that out, and we'll try and put the link down in the description. Okay, so having done a little bit of acting before and sounding like a very creative chap, a soap opera has contacted you and offered you a lead acting role. What type of character are you hoping that they're going to write for you, considering soap operas are just a little bit more dramatic than real life?
Well, I think it depends on what type of soap opera. So if it's like Home and Away, one of my big requests would be I would have to be related to like one of the original characters, having that sort of resonance. But so personality-wise, I would want my character to is the boy next door, and then sort of grown tired of it, and it's just being the small town good boy, and now I'm just going to be chaos, which would be fun. Something like an American show, like this is going to be such an old reference, but it's like Dynasty, where the backstabbing rich families to play like the white sheep who usually tries to be the only moral person on that type of show, but then and then have that one moment per season where they get to deliver that really good one-liner, or just finally reach that breaking point and just get the hell out of It's been at their throats for the entire show. So easier to just wear the sexy clothes and one-liners, but to have to do like the more sincere roles, I think, challenging.
No, there's some really good answers. I could see you maybe as Joan Collins with the shoulder pads. So, Thomas, sadly, that's the end of the questions, but I want to put something to you just before you go. Just a random thought. Great Aunt Bessie from the back of Burke has sadly passed away at the age of 372. She's left you $10 million, but it can only be spent in the arts. What do you think that you would like to do with that money? Maybe produce a show, set up a festival or a production company? And if you do, can you employ me?
Well, firstly, definitely yes to employment question.
Woohoo!
Amount of money. The temptation to actually use that money and get one of my scripts in proper development.
Ooh.
One idea, and if I had that money, I would really like to some of my more talented friends and get their projects up, which would be cool.
Wow, I like that answer.
Yeah. I think I'll go for that instead. Try to do both.
Thomas, that is the last of our questions, and it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. It has been so fascinating that I actually may want to listen to a step song at the end of this interview.
Oh my God. The stuff they've been releasing this year has been so good.
What, they've got new stuff out? No, I was going for something like in about 2001.
What's your favourite?
Look, do you know what? I think I have to say Deeper Shade of Blue.
Nice. My favourites would have to be from their last album, The Way You Make Me Feel.
Okay, I haven't heard that, but well, that's going to be my night tonight. If you'd like to follow Thomas and follow his fantastic Twitter account with all of these fascinating tidbits, because I've learnt so much tonight, you can follow Thomas on social media, and it is at It's Thomas H. So Twitter, at It's Thomas H. The links will also be listed in the show's description. So Thomas Hamilton, I loved talking to you and listening to your amazing knowledge of pop culture and the arts. You would be the most ideal person on my pub trivia team.
Yeah, there have been times where I was actually doing a lot of pub trivia and...
You're hired, mate. You're hired. As we come to the end of another episode of The Sessions, my name is Danielle Lonnon, and you can find me on all the socials at DameDivaDan. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Stay safe and be kind. Ciao! Episode of the Lockdown Hotline Sessions was recorded and produced in Sydney in November 2020.